whose fault is this? Or is this like nobody's fault? And like everybody, even the people who are being abused, like it's their responsibility to like try to like get their own lives in order, you know, like by seeking help? Or is this like really somebody's fault and we need to like figure out whose fault it is to make sure that they get punished for like the wrong things that they've done? And so I think like this anime is asking some interesting questions about that.
Welcome back to 2A Motak. I'm your host Mayu, a born and raised Japanese non-otaku, and
I'm your co-host Cisco, an American otaku.
in this podcast we share reviews of anime and manga through distinct perspectives with commentary on Japanese culture, history, and language. Cisco,
Yeah.
we just finished watching 4th and 5th episode of Takopi's original sin.
Yeah.
What's your thought?
It's so depressing.
It is depressing, but at the same time, confusing.
Yeah, I have to say, one of my big overall thoughts is how similar this is to the manga that I read by the same author in Jump, in that there's a lot of like, not exactly time travel, but sort of sometimes time travel. And also, you know, oh, this thing happened, oh, like rewind or like do over or whatever. Like there's a lot of lack of clarity about the timeline in both shows. And so I'm getting deja vu a little bit, even though the other series is newer than this one.
Interesting. So we already talked about Takobi's original sin about episode 1 to 2. So if you're interested in check those episodes out first. And we're going to talk about from episode of 3 to 5. It'll include some spoilers, I'm sure. So check those episodes out first. Before we start, we'd like to hear from you. Share your thoughts, ideas, questions, or even suggestions that we should talk about. Send us a message to the email in the description, or you can use Spotify and YouTube comment section as well. All right, let's go through episode 3 to 5. Let me read the titles from episode 1 to 5. First episode title is To You in 2016. Second episode is Takopi's Salvation. Third episode title is Takopi's Confession. Title number 4 is Azuma-kun's Salvation. And episode 5 is To You in 2022. So when I saw the title of episode 5, I thought it was somehow connected to the first episode, which says 2016. And when I first saw the episode 1, I was wondering, why does it have to be 2016? So it's a past.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I felt confusing was because I watched episode 5, and it seems like Takopi has been on Earth before she met, like she was trying to save Shizuka.
Do you think of Takopi as a she?
I don't know.
Interesting. You said she. You referred to Takopi with a like a feminine pronoun.
Okay. I don't know why. They?
Well, I don't know either. I think interestingly, I would have said for Takopi he, even though Takopi is clearly genderless. So maybe I'm just projecting myself into Takopi. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's an alien.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was interesting, the titles and comparing the titles. What was happening in episode 3, Cisco?
So episode 3 opens with Marina just having been murdered. And Azuma finds the body almost immediately while Takopi and Shizuka are still there. And he goes into like, I have to like protect Shizuka mode. So he's like, well, we got to like do something about the body so you don't get, or I think first he's like, we should just tell the cops. And Shizuka's like, no, we can't do that. I'll be sent to juvie, which is like, I mean, probably realistically true, right? So she's like, let's cover up the crime instead. And it sort of immediately sort of manipulates him to like join their cause instead of like doing the right thing and just reporting it to the cops like right away. And it's interesting that Shizuka doesn't seem to do that out of like concern for Takopi, who's the actual murderer. Even though it's not clear that Shizuka knows that she won't be believed when she says like Takopi did, or maybe she does. It's not clear. Anyway, they hide the body by putting it in like a space capsule thing that Takopi has, and then bury it like very shallowly because they're grade schoolers, and then make plans to go to Tokyo so that Shizuka can be reunited with her dog Chappi, which everybody else seems to know is a lie, that the dog is not there, right? The dog's almost certainly just been killed after biting Marina, but Shizuka believes Chappi is there. So she sort of enlists Azuma in making a plan to escape to Tokyo during summer vacation so they can find her dog.
I think episode one, two, three, four, I think. Like it captures each kid's like feelings and like what you can see through Takopi's eyes, sort of. Not Azuma's, I guess. But Takopi was trying to be Shizuka, and Takopi was also trying to be Marina. And you could see through what their lives were like, and it's just not opposite of happy. So it was interesting to see then like a bullied side and then a person who gets bullied. Also, like Azuma-kun is not bullied, or she's not a bully.
Well, yeah.
Sort of.
He's not bullied by his peers at school.
Do you say he's bullied by his parent?
Well, yeah. I mean, his mom is like really awful to him.
Right. It was I was watching that episode and I felt like, am I doing okay as a parent?
Yeah, I think it definitely makes you question, what sorts of inducements to like get your kids to study are okay and which ones aren't. But like, it's really, I mean, it's suggested that by the time he was 6, his mother was like withholding food from him for not getting 100% on tests. Like, that's pretty extreme.
I think I might be a little bit strict, but not that strict. I mean, it's like a mentally hurting. It's not physical thing, but
You're not verbally abusing our children. Don't
okay.
worry. It's really like I understand why this episode would make any parent be like, "Oh no, like am I an abusive?" I think the show is about abusive parents. We've got a neglectful parent, that's Shizuka's mom, and a completely absent parent, Shizuka's dad, who just like left the family and ran away. We have an actually physically abusive parent, that's Marina's mom, and a like I don't know, it's not clear like how verbally abusive he is to Marina, but like another sort of a neglectful or absent parent, Marina's dad. And then we have a like I don't mean I guess I don't know if she's verbally abusive. She's not actually saying like you're useless, you're shit, but like she's definitely emotionally like extremely manipulative and potentially abusive to her kid. And she seems extremely controlling to both of her kids, and that's Azuma's mom. And then his dad is like not in the picture, right? He's dead or something.
I don't know.
We haven't heard anything about his dad. So all the fathers are just absent. Like none of the fathers are really in the picture except for Marina's dad, who's definitely abusive, at least verbally, if not also physically, towards Marina's mom. And like, yeah, all the parents are kind of monsters. There's no like good parents in the show.
Yeah, and then you can't really see what's happening in the school, but you can see a like a little bit of teacher, classroom teacher, and she seems like she doesn't care what's happening in the class. So she sounded like she hates her job.
Yeah, the teacher is also a terrible adult. All the teachers in the school are terrible adults. I mean, one of their kids has like a bunch of verbally abusive messages written on her desk and backpack in like giant bold letters. And no one is even like stopping to be like, hey, it seems like you're not okay. So the classroom teacher is terrible and yeah, definitely seems like depressed or like ineffective. And there should be other adults in the school who've also noticed what's going on and they're all turning a blind eye. So like all the adults in the show, like period, so far have been terrible. The only good character at all thus far in the story is Azuma's older brother, Junya. No one else is good.
I think it's a good show for parents to watch in a way.
To sort of be like, don't be a monster parent.
Don't be a monster parent, reflect yourselves and see. I got worried about myself. Like, am I doing like being too strict with my kids, or like I'm not that extreme. I know that, but like it's like a reminding of me. Like you have to not like that.
Don't be an abuser. Yes, that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah. And then like the fact that there are families and parents and kids like that in the world. Like if you live in like a happy environment, you wouldn't really know, right?
What other people are going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good reminder. But I wouldn't let my kids watch the show yet because they're not. I don't think they are capable to take it in, and it might be too much.
I mean, it's horribly depressing no matter how old you are, but I think actually kids probably have a really different reaction to this show because I don't think for them it's at all about like, oh no, am I a horrible parent, right? I think for them it's like they probably just relate to the experiences of the kids in the show. I mean, it'd probably be pretty extreme to relate to Shizuka's experiences. She's like really, really suffering. She'd probably be taken away from her parent and put into like the care of CPS or something. And actually, that's probably true for Marina too, although until she gets the giant scar on her face from her mother attacking her with a broken glass bottle, her home life, at least she's got like, food and shelter and like baths and things that Shizuka doesn't seem to have. So it's maybe a little bit of a tougher call. And Azuma's definitely not getting taken away by CPS. His mom's mean to him and is definitely causing him some stress that he's going to need therapy for, but he's not like an at-risk child, right? Like he's like growing up healthily in like a home with a parent who provides the basics of life for him. So, but I think most kids would probably identify the most with Azuma because his situation is the least extreme and the one that most kids, especially in Japan, face in terms of like pressure for achievement.
Yeah, that's true. As a Japanese child growing up in Japan, I never had that kind of experience. Like my parents never pushed me to study hard.
Would you say you were Shizuka, not
I was
Azuma?
not. No, I'm not neither.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's. I thought it was interesting because like growing up, like only seeing my parents, I thought my parents are awesome. But after I grew up and become parents and seeing other parents and the parentings, I realized, okay, so my parents maybe not the best.
Yeah, I think actually I had the opposite experience where I grew up being like, "God, my parents suck," and then like as an adult was like, "Oh, my parents were like awesome." Oops.
That's a good realization because like I like my parents, but I like there are a lot of different ways of parenting. And what I started with my like first child, like a parenting style was like very similar to my parents' parenting style. I started saying and then notice what I was saying and telling my kid was exactly like I was told by my parents.
Well, I think that's actually a good point that many of us repeat the same sort of like patterns that we were raised with. And this show is definitely interested in that, right? I mean, it's got that whole comment in, I think, episode 5, where Takopi is like, "Oh, like that's the reason you hit me so much, Marina. It's because you're practicing being a parent." And you see the effect that that has on her, where she's like, snap, like I am definitely like repeating the cycle of abuse that I've been was exposed to. I mean, it's like a really well established like pattern that people who are victims of abuse are at greater risk of going on to become abusers than those who are not. There's, I think that's a scary thing to say because it makes it seem like unavoidable outcome. And it's not. I think, like, especially if you recognize that and take steps to, like, not become an abuser yourself, then, that can really help a lot. But it's just true that we imprint what parenting is by looking at our own parents. And so when your parents are or have been abusive, it takes a lot of work to overcome that style or model of how to be a parent when you become a parent, if you become a parent.
It was like normal around the time I was kid, like parents like hit kids' head or like, wherever or like, scold like really hard. I didn't hit my kids because I thought it's simply bad for your brain.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not great for the kids.
And you could go to jail and stuff.
Right, in America especially. I don't know about parenting style in Japan right now, but I don't know how many times I was hit by my parents and I thought that was normal. And then because like my parents, both of my parents were hit by parents too.
Right.
So it's just repeated.
And so some of that, becomes a question of like culture, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does one culture raise its children versus another? And like, I was spanked as a child, but that was also culturally appropriate at the time. And it didn't like physically damage me in any way. I wasn't spanked so hard I had like, I don't know, cuts or bruises or anything. It was more like a sort of a humiliation technique, I think, really more than anything. And it was normalized at the time. But my parents never hit me anywhere else. And I don't think ever hit me out of anger, only out of like discipline, essentially. So yeah, I mean, some of that become, when we use like really simple ways of describing things like I was hit, like, well, it's really different to like get spanked as like this is your punishment for having done this thing you weren't supposed to do, as opposed to like your parent is drunk and angry and like uppercuts you and knocks your teeth out, right? Like that's not the same type of thing. And so it's tricky.
Yeah. I'm glad like things are changing and it's getting better in Japan as well. Okay, so after watching episode 5, I got confused and you were saying about the timeline. Do you want to try to guess what this episode is about?
Sure. So up through episode 4, the timeline is fairly straightforward, other than Takopi having used the magic camera to reset Shizuka's death every week and try to find a way to stop her from committing suicide. And then once the camera is broken at the end of episode 2, that's no longer possible, and we're in a pretty straightforward linear time going up to the end of episode 4. But in episode 5, we all of a sudden travel to a different timeline in which some things are unclear to me. And I think it's because of the English translation, because I was really reading the translation rather than listening to the Japanese in this episode. But in episode 5, I thought it was implied that Marina had bullied Shizuka when they were kids. She had not, quote, not killed her in 4th grade. And she, quote, should have killed her in 4th grade. And then it appears that, like, I wonder whether some type of bullying that Marina did subject Shizuka to at that time led to Marina's mom flying into such a rage that she cut her daughter's face with a glass object, very, like, permanently scarring Marina, both, like, mentally and physically. And then Marina seems to have, it seems like Shizuka went away after 4th grade. Marina maybe also transferred schools. This isn't explicitly stated, but it is sort of implied. And then in middle school, it looks like Marina and Azuma and Shizuka all wound up back at their school together, or at their middle school together, so that they somehow came back, they all came back to the same place. And from that point on, it seems like when Takopi arrived on Earth originally, he met Marina first and saw all of the abuse that Marina was suffering at home from her mother, who's like still unbalanced because Marina's dad is a philanderer, like going out to like hostess clubs, spending his money with other women. But actually, he's not in the picture in episode 5, so it's not clear whether that's still going on or whether they've like fully broken up or what is happening there. But she's still being abused by her mom. That's clear. And when she reconnects with Azuma, she invites him over for like a date to like meet her mom or have dinner together or something. And that everything seems like it's going well between them until Shizuka reappears from some other school, transfers in. Azuma immediately falls in love with her and ditches out on going to Marina's dinner, at which point Marina's mom flies into another murderous rage, and Marina's like, the only way to make things better is to go back in time to 4th grade and kill Shizuka. So Takopi flies back to his home planet, travels back in time, comes back, has his memories erased, right? And then tries to get to Shizuka to murder her in 4th grade. But by the time he gets there, I'm not really clear on whether he's actually fully had his memories erased and doesn't know he's supposed to kill her, or does know that, but she's nice to him, and so he changes his mind. Sorry, this is all me saying Takopi's he, but Takopi changes their mind and decides not to kill Shizuka. Like, none of that's really clear, except that seems to be where the series actually starts, is with Takopi having gone back in time, potentially to kill Shizuka. And so then there's a scene at the end of episode 5 of Takopi meeting Azuma that kind of seems like it's set after the events of episode 5, where Shizuka arrives in Tokyo, meets her dad. He pretends not to know who she is, and obviously Chappie is not there. And Shizuka has asked Takopi for a magical tool to be able to cut people open and see what's in their stomachs, because she thinks her little stepsisters, half-sisters, ate her dog. And then when Takopi's like, no, I don't have that, it really looks like Shizuka's going to try to kill him. So it's not clear whether Takopi is back from Tokyo, having not been successfully killed by Shizuka, and meeting Azuma after the events of that summer, or we're in another timeline altogether where Takopi meets Azuma first, or something else. And so I felt frustrated by the end of episode 5, where I was like, I want more clarity on which timeline we're in, like what's happened and what hasn't happened. And I'm really hoping that the last episode will tie those loose threads together.
All right, let's do today's word of the day.
Otaku, word of the day.
Today's word of the day is
Korosu.
Yeah. What does it mean?
Korosu is the verb to kill. You'll hear it a lot in anime because people are constantly threatening to kill each other in a lot of shows. And it's in this one a lot because lots of people want to kill each other in this show too.
Yeah, even Takopi was saying korosu, and it sounds like there's no concept of killing in Happy Planet.
Yeah, although Takopi does seem to understand that it means taking someone's life away. And so if they have concepts of life and the possibility of life being taken away, then they potentially understand what it means to kill something.
Yeah, like you said, not only this anime, but also you hear like korosu or koroshite right? A lot on like maybe like action style anime.
It might also be worth saying that is, the verb form, but the character for killing, satsu, can also show up in a lot of other words. So like side in English, homicide, suicide, etc., parricide, maricide. The satsu part kind of means killing, like side. So you'll see it in jisatsu, suicide, or tasatsu, or like what else? Satsujin, murderer. So it's a frequently used character in lots of compounds around killing.
Yeah, pay attention to anime you watch, and you might hear one or two. Depends on what kind of anime you watch.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Before we end, would you like to add anything?
I am really curious to see how this series ends because so far, actually, there's a thing I wanted to add. After episode 5 in particular, a thing that really sort of started to a question that grew in me about this anime is everything men's fault? Because a lot of the series seems sort of preoccupied with figuring out like why, right? Why is Shizuka so depressed and trying to kill herself? And the answer is like, well, because Marin is bullying her. And it's like, well, why is Marina bullying her? And the answer is like, well, Marina is also being abused by her mother. Like, why is Marina's mother abusing her? Well, it's because her dad is like abandoning the family to like go off and be with another woman, in this case, Shizuka's mom, who works at like a hostess club, right? Well, why is Shizuka's mom working at a hostess club? Well, it's because her husband like ditched her and like left for somewhere else. And then particularly in the episode where set in what 2022 or something, where Azuma falls for Shizuka at like first sight and then ditches out on going to dinner with his like ostensible girlfriend Marina. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, that was so uncool. And it's not like you've been in touch with Shizuka this whole time and blah 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 blah. Like, you had no good reason for doing that. And so it kind of made me think like, wow, is this like an anime that really is seeking to like blame men for abandoning their families and or sort of like being unreliable, and that's like for sure a widespread social problem in Japan and elsewhere in the world. But it's I think it's like kind of tricky to sort of figure out like whose fault is this, or is this like nobody's fault, and like everybody, even the people who are being abused, like it's their responsibility to like try to like get their own lives in order, like by seeking help? Or is this like really somebody's fault and we need to like figure out whose fault it is to make sure that they get punished for like the wrong things that they've done? And so I think like this anime is asking some interesting questions about that, but so far a lot of the fingers end up pointing back to the absent or inconsistent parenting of like the fathers who are absent or unreliable.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you liked this week's episode, please give us good reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or like and leave a comment on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and follow 2AM Otak and 3AM Otak. It'll keep us making more fun episodes. See you next time for more 2AM Otak.